For not the first time in my 15 years of YouTube, I'm questioning my buying choices, and I'm sure I'll be doing it again, because I picked up Duck Race on PS5 for £1.74p in the latest end-of-year deal sale. The joy of this is that it's a single-player, single-button racing game that is much better than I expected it to be, but ultimately has some flaws which makes it a very difficult to recommend product. In Duck Race, you play as the rubber duck. There's quite a lot of rubber duck games out at the moment, which is starting to become a little rabbit hole that I didn't want to go down, but now feel like I have no choice. Sorry, everyone. But this game works very similar to a slot car racer game. So you're single rubber duck, you don't steer, you press and hold and let go for acceleration so that you get that traction around corners, reaching top speeds. You can tap to go over ramps for a jump, and when you land those nicely, you'll get a boost. And that's largely how you get around the tracks. The other rubber ducks that are in the race get in the way, but you can bump them off the track. And actually this becomes a very valid tactic because most of the courses are full of quite tight corners that require you, far more than I expected, to think about racing lines to some degree, but just throttle application of when's the right point in a corner to floor the accelerator to get the duck full speed steam and swim ahead. I just wasn't expecting that level of need to play or not necessarily skill, but it was just much more engaging than I thought it was going to be. So when you're coming into tight corners, you'll want to be lifting off the full speed swim so that you can then take the corner and not kind of understeer and slide off the slide, because if you slide off once it's game over. But also if you hit another duck on your way, you can kind of push them off the track. They then lose their life, but then you keep up your speed, which enables you to essentially gain an advantage over your competitors. This works really well throughout most of the game, and the game's broken up into hundreds of levels, but they're 9 race levels and then a final end boss duck. And here's where some of the issues potentially come into Duck Race. Firstly, the boss levels require you to hit a duck 3 times and then kind of kill it before you reach the end of the level. And that doesn't become a challenge because the other part of the game that's a real problem is that the AI rubber bands really severely at the end of a race. And it's not for people behind or ducks behind you to catch up. It's for the ducks ahead to slow down to make every finish, if you've not caught up, look like a grandstand one where you nearly caught them. The problem with this is that it's often with about 2 corners to go, and so you can really smash the other duck off the track and then take the win at the last moment, and that feels quite fun for the first few times that you do it. But when you notice that pattern appearing really severely after an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of duck on duck action, it starts to wear itself thin quite quickly. And so whilst I was enjoying the moment-to-moment gameplay in the races to get to the finish line, I often felt like I was cheating a little bit because of the way how the game then hands over the win to you. Almost like it doesn't have the confidence to sell the fact that actually this is quite a decent game for what it is. So I felt like that was lacking courage in its conviction of its design and gameplay elements to really nail that and to become, I guess, a bit more of a challenge. On the flip side of that though, one of the other things that I really liked around the course designs were that you could take multiple approaches to how you went swimming or duck racing or whatever it is that you're doing here. And that's because quite a lot of the course designs get more and more complex as you go through the levels, and they add on things like frogs popping out of the water to get in your way, water that's kind of doesn't just go straight forward on the slide, it's pushing off to the slide, so if you kind of take too long getting around the corner you'll slide off. And there's also spinning wheels, a bit like when you go mini golf and you've got the windmill and you've got to try and time it right to get through. There's a lot of potential strategy around that because you can bump other ducks off whilst you're waiting for the frog or the contraption to spin round, but they can also do the same to you. And when you then hit circular bends, quite a lot of them will have a little rainbow ring around the edge, and you can choose to ride the rim of a corner and get a boost off it, which technically should be the fastest way to go. but actually quite often on the later levels, sometimes boosting is a detriment to your overall flow around corner to corner, because corners chain up into several tight corners back to back, and so one boost might actually push you over the edge of a really sharp hairpin that's straight afterwards. And so yeah, you want to kind of time some of those elements, particularly if you then come out of that and you want to time it so that you don't meet the frog popping up to bash you all out of the way and things like that. So yeah, I had good fun with it. For £1.74, I'm certainly not complaining, and I definitely got my money's worth with that with Duck Race. But what this game really lacks is that local multiplayer aspect. Even if it was a single camera view that then kind of panned out and showed you the game as everyone went racing, even that would have been a really fun step to give this more longevity than the single player experience that tries to let you win a little bit too often. So a real tentative recommendation, this one. I think it's for a very specific demographic who like stupid games, having stupid fun for a couple of hours, and don't mind spending the equivalent of a slightly posh Lidl's pizza on a game that they know isn't going to give them hours and hours of longevity. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/Higher Network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.